Alright everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel in for the second training video I think now of the off season, as we're now almost 5 weeks post show. I'm going to stop saying that now. It's the last video where we're just going to be heading into off season now, but we are technically 5 weeks post show. Things are moving along very, very well. We're in for pull today. As I mentioned in the last video, if you watched it, and we kind of worked through that initial adaptations, getting used to these new sessions. Now I'm kind of getting in my groove, coming around to the second, third time that I've hit the sessions and actually working on driving up performance now. So today we've got pull, which is going to be a very fun session. I say it's my favourite session. I think I'm saying that at the moment with all of them. I'm like, oh, push is my favourite, oh, pull is my favourite. But I'm in that nice spot where everything is honestly just really fun, because I'm able to progress again. But this session is probably the most different of all the sessions, because previously, if you have followed along training throughout prep, you'll have seen that these sessions were pretty much just back work, because I couldn't really recover from too much lower back loading or creating too much entire body fatigue in those sessions, which for me is kind of boring. I like to hit hinge in my pull days. I like doing some more lower back loading work when I can recover from it. But the reality is that when you're much leaner, or when I'm not in a position where I'm growing from that work either, I couldn't handle it with my lower back. I didn't have the body fat there. That was then impacting my leg training and was causing me to be in more of a position where I was risking hurting myself, etc. But now I can push it more, and these are the sessions where obviously I need to bring up my back a lot more. There's not really much that needs to change with the training in itself. It's just doing more of the same and getting better and better at it, because I kind of had this conversation with AJ where I was like, what are we going to change with my back training? And we kind of took a moment to be like, you know what, my back actually has progressed a lot. If you look from 2020 to 2024, I did improve my back a lot. It's just that relatively speaking, compared to my legs maybe, or maybe even my delts, it just lags a little bit in comparison. It's not genetically a super wide body feature anyway. So it's we don't need to change anything, we just need to keep building on it and just continuing to do stronger stuff and continue to progress. So these are sessions where we add a lot of density, we add a lot of mass. These are what a lot of people like to call kind of density sessions, I suppose, in a way, because it's just everything on that posterior chain. It's everything that builds thickness. And this is something I want to talk about a lot in the videos today, is if you're trying to add on a lot of size, kind of what it really takes in order to see that. And I'm not saying this as somebody who thinks that they're Ronnie Coleman or whatever, because I'm not, look at me. But I had to work a lot from 2020 to this year to put on just a big baseline tissue of muscle mass that just wasn't there before. And I think that you have to do big, strong stuff in order to see that happen. There's times in your career where you do have to fine tune things, but when you are just trying to get the mass on, and you need to get bigger, and you need to go from being a small little twig to having a bit of substance about you, you've got to do the hard stuff in the gym. You've got to do the stuff that just loads your whole body, and that's things like your hinges, that's things like, I think, your rows, and just putting your body under load and getting used to that. So that's a lot of the stuff that we're going to do today. The start of the session, I have got some assisted pull-ups and then some glute kickbacks to do. So it's not quite the hip hinges I've just talked about, but this is where that balance is really, really important. I'll talk about that as we go along. But I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to start with some assisted pull-ups, and I suppose I'll talk you guys through those once we get through the warm-ups there as well. So very simply, this is just a wide grip, pronated, assisted pull-up. I'm doing them assisted because I can't actually do bodyweight pull-ups, and it also helps me with just making sure that I'm actually controlling the movement well, and I'm not just kind of swinging all over the shop. But this is really good to kind of get me warm, ready to go for the session. And honestly, I don't think enough people do just a standard wide grip pull-up or a standard wide grip pull down. I think that now there's a lot of narrative, and this same thing goes with a lot of pull training, a lot of training in general, of everything has to be isolated on this specific muscle group. And I think that people sometimes get so lost in that they forget about just actually training everything, or training multiple muscle groups at the same time. That's okay. And I think that as a result of people being so fixated on just isolating this or just isolating that they then have gaps because they're missing just the overall picture of what they're trying to do. And because a lot of people don't do wide grip pull downs because they're thinking, oh, well, is it lat? Is it upper back? It's like, it's a wide grip pull down, some assisted pull up, you know, like you do the movement. It's like if you did a squat and you were only ever thinking quad, 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 like you'd never squat, you know? So long story short, that's kind of why we're doing this at the start, is to one, train areas that maybe have been a little bit neglected, like my teres, for example, and also just to, like I say, warm up for the session, get some good blood flow in my back as a whole, and then that kind of like leads me nicely into going into what will be my RDL. So I've got a bit of blood flow in my back, and then we'll do kickbacks, a bit of focus on my glutes, and then we'll be kind of ready to go for those. Boom. All right, now we move on to my favorite movement, glute kickbacks. Let's go. Seriously, I don't love glute kickbacks just because I feel like I'm not really doing anything. That's not to say they're not hard, because they actually are really hard. But like, I feel very unnatural doing a glute kickback. But I need to do them to get a little bit more like specific isolation work in for my glutes. Like I say, it also prepares me before I go into my RDLs as well, because I've then basically got my back warm, got my glutes warm. I feel really safe when I go in, and that kind of also causes me to like use and engage my glutes a little bit more when I go in too, because I've got some blood flow there. I'm not just going in fresh, which is where sometimes I think a lot of people struggle with feeling like their glutes and RDL, is because they don't know what it feels like to have like good blood flow in their glutes or to contract their glutes. And you know, if you struggle with a kickback, but you seem to be doing plates on plates on plates and a hip thrust, it's like maybe we need to assess something there and see if we can actually get you training your glutes effectively, especially if you don't have very well developed glutes. My glutes are okay, but I want them to be as good as possible. Like, as much as I want to be a big bodybuilder, I also would like some good glutes as well. Like, that would be nice. So yeah, we've just got 2 sets on here as well. You'll obviously see the setup as I kind of go through it, but this is something that I am, honestly, for me, just kind of familiarizing myself with, because it's not a movement that I've really ever done. Like, I did it back in my bikini days, till like 2019. So it's been a while since I've done these, but they do feel great and they do work. So sometimes needs must when it comes to programming. I genuinely think there's something to be taken that we can learn from bikini girls, because honestly, a lot of the bikini girls that I've seen on stage this year, they've got better legs and more developed glutes than a lot of even figure athletes, physique athletes. And obviously, yes, some of their other body parts might not be quite as big, but they train their legs and their glutes pretty frequently and they can recover from it. And I think that as a figure athlete, a physique athlete, like don't neglect that. If you can train your glutes more frequently and get more glute, it's rare that I see someone who's got too strong or too developed glutes, like very, very, very rare. Like if you can develop your glutes better, because let's be honest, it's hard to have good glutes unless you're just genetically built with some like crazy Brazilian glutes. Like most of us have got to work pretty hard to get some glutes, and if you've got stronger glutes on stage, that will allow you to be more competitive in any division. You know, it's not just, good glutes are not just for bikini or wellness. You know, you need them in every category. RDLs then, so this is the hip hinge that I am rolling with consistently in training at the moment. If any of you have followed along the content before, you'll know that my favourite hip hinge ever is a stiff leg deadlift. However, we're just going to wait a little bit of time until we get those in, just to make sure I've got the body weight to just have a bit more oomph and safety when it comes to pulling from the floor. Comparatively with an RDL, I can just stay a bit more locked in, and I've been patterning these throughout prep as well. So it's a nice movement for me to transition into the off season with. So I have 2 rotations of pull, just like with all my other sessions. In my first pull session, I do a very standard, just continuous RDL. This session, I do a paused RDL, so a very, very slight pause and a stretch. And that is purely just to create a little bit more variation between the 2 sessions, and equally just to, again, improve my skill, my confidence of being able to spend a bit of time here, which obviously gives me a little bit more benefit from movement, but it also then cross transfers nicely into the other one as well. So if you have the same movement that you do on repeat, and this could even go for if you have like the same machine that you do over and over again, you can add variations like having a pause to just have the variation, but also get a little bit more out of those movements as well. Strong from the unrack, let's go. Come on. Yes, easy. Yes, easy fucking work, flying. Oh yeah, again. Let's go, let's go. Locked in. Yes. Nice. Come on then. Let's fucking see it. Your rep. Yes. Lovely. Very nice. All right, so last warm up here now. I'm literally just going to do 90 for one rep. My last warm up will generally be 2 reps at the most, but generally it's just literally like, what I like to call it like a confidence rep. Like that's all it's there for really. It's just like, okay, feel this load, make sure that I'm not taking a massive low jump going into my working set. I'm not trying to fatigue myself going into my work set. Like I'm literally just getting myself ready. Unless you intentionally need to pre-fatigue yourself going into your top set weight, or you still like patterning your movement, like don't waste your last warm up doing 6, 8, 10 reps. Like honestly, people do it all the time and then they wonder why they're not progressing their top set or even just taking good work in it. It's because you've just massively pre-fatigued yourself going into it. Like save all of that for the top set and just build confidence in the final warm up. That's all you need.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Come on. Good. Let's go. Easy. Big pause. Burn it. Yeah. Through. Love it. Just stitch it.
Honestly, that really shows a difference in thinking powerfully versus like being cautious, or just kind of thinking about being kind of just honestly overly careful with the movement. You obviously need to be safe, but to get sets like that to move and to take progressions, like, you've gotta think powerfully. Like, I've taken 10 kilos up there, I only dropped 2 reps from what I did last time for 10 kilos lighter, which is a decent increase. But last time I was way more careful with it. Like, I'm reminding myself now that, like, I just have to be powerful. And you see before I go into the sets, like, that powerful mindset is not just something that I'm taking once I get into the stretch. It starts hours before I come to the gym. It starts when I write out my logbook. It starts when I hit record, when I hit play on my music, and I walk up to that bar and I strap myself in. All of those moments matter. And if you're not thinking powerfully when you do all of those things, it's not just going to suddenly turn on. When you get into that stretch position, you need to drive it through. It's a mindset that you have to carry at pretty much every other point outside of the set as well. So yeah, very, very happy with that today. We'll keep building that up. So hopefully every session we film, we'll keep seeing that moving upwards. So actually doing fun stuff now, you no longer seeing me just scramble to try and hold on to a 100 kilo RDL that was like all over the spot. So it's nice to have a bit more body weight on me again. It's because my perspective on strength is so different. Like, my benchmark for strength is AJ. Like, he is my benchmark for strength. I don't care that he's 50 pounds heavier than me. I don't care that he's male. Like, I just see what he does as like, okay, that's possible. Cool. I just try and be my strongest self. Like, I don't ever think like, oh, well, what are other girls my age and my height doing? Like, that's never ever been my benchmark, ever. Like, I set my benchmark as the highest that it can possibly be. I look up to people like AJ. I look up to, honestly, some of the strongest powerlifters, people like Bobby Butters, who's a fucking nutter. And I see the shit that she's doing and I'm like, that is sick. Like, if she can do that, there's no reason why I can't do that. Like, I've changed my mindset massively in the past few years from, oh, I'm just not one of those people, to why not? Like, why can't I be one of those people? Like, it really, really is a mindset thing and what you tell yourself you can do or not. Oh, okay. So move on from RDLs to bent over dumbbell rows. Actually, I'm not going to say bent over, they're just dumbbell rows. I'm obviously a bit bent over, but people get like, oh, well, you're not perfectly bent over in this position. I'm doing a hinge, non-chest supported dumbbell row. Being strong with them, being powerful with them, actually exposing my whole posterior chain, so like being under load again, all these things that are really important. And I think that people who are so scared of doing a lot of these things and actually exposing their lower back to loading are the ones who experience a lot of lower back injuries, because they just don't have a strong lower back at all. They never expose it to load. Like, you have to, obviously within safe confines, get your body strong in those positions and you'll be so much more resilient across training, seriously. Not to even mention the muscularity development there. But yeah, these are one of my favourite movements ever, just because, one, they're really, really fun to get after. But I actually really like them as an overall movement, but definitely for my back as well. I sometimes find that chest supported rows are quite difficult for me, because one, my limbs are just weird sizes, but I also, with having a BA, sometimes find that chest supported movements actually feel quite restrictive more than anything, and they actually feel worse. Whereas when I'm in a free position, and this is what sometimes people forget with like dumbbells, barbells, all this stuff, is that you do actually have freedom to move your body as your body kind of wants to be moved. And that's the benefit that I really, really get from these. And when I look at when I probably made some of my best back development in my last off season, I was doing stuff like this. You know, sometimes you do like, don't overanalyze it, because people overanalyze these things. Oh, I look good when I was doing this and this and this. Like, don't overthink it. But you can sometimes look at when you were doing different movements in different phases and where they were giving you benefits. So yeah, we've got these in now. Are they challenging after RDL? Yes. But they also feel great. And I honestly just feel, I feel so much less fragile at the moment. I really do. Like, yeah, my body's a bit like beat up because I'm training hard. But like, because I'm actually exposing my body to doing more hard shit, like, I feel like I'm actually alive again. Like, I've got some muscle, like I'm actually fuller and I'm challenging myself. I feel stronger, honestly. So I'll just keep rambling on and on and on, but things like this are really good for just a number of different reasons. Very similar to a lot of other movements and pulls, but dumbbell rows, they're one of those things where you kind of have to know where you draw the line for where the last rep is. Like for me, I just kind of go when I know I can't initiate sort of with my elbow and it starts to become more of an RDL. That's when I'm like, yeah, set, done, because otherwise you just keep going and going, but the reps just get worse and worse. You know, it becomes further away from a row. So then, like I say, an RDL, same thing, like you do a pull down, you just make them worse and worse. They start to become scap retractions or bicep curls. You know, you have to kind of know where to draw the line. So whatever that cue is, just make sure you keep that in mind across the set. Usually I always say it's when you can kind of no longer predominantly initiate with the elbow. When you feel like you can't really drive your elbow anymore, that's when it's probably a safe place to leave the set. All right, so now we move on to the prime row, which you've seen me do probably a million times. But this is exactly where we have that nice balance again in the session. You know, like I've done some stuff there that is more like free weight, moving around, like just trying to move a good bit of load with like relatively decent control and intent. And then we come on to other movements that are a little bit more focused on isolating. You know, just like I say, as you do with leg training, like you've got your leg extensions, you've got your seated hamstring curls, but then you've also got your squat patterns. You know, like you have a mixture of things. And I think it's really, really good to have that balance. I think you don't just want one or the other in bodybuilding. I mean, ultimately everyone has their own way that they enjoy bodybuilding, and that's perfectly fine. But I personally think that a mix is great. I think that's what works really, really well, to develop a lot of really good skills on both sides of the coin, really, and also ensure that you have, you know, a good, well-developed physique that also is created by a method of training that you enjoy and you can sustain for long periods of time too. Oh, lovely. Lovely. It was one of those where I actually thought I'd like misloaded the set. It felt so much better, which is nice. But this is just where the body weight, as it comes on gradually more and more, I just feel, funnily enough, more powerful. I can leverage better performance. And that is the main reason, obviously alongside the fact that you're just in a surplus, why you need to get comfortable with getting uncomfortable, with getting softer, is because, especially as a natural athlete, your body weight is a main leverage for increased performance. People often ask, like, how soft do I need to get in the off season, or how soft is acceptable? You're gonna have to, like I say, get a bit softer to be able to do stuff that you need to do in the gym. If you're not really sending it in the gym, seriously, you're maybe not benefiting from that extra body weight that you are carrying. It is going to be body weight that you then do just honestly have to pull off, or it's going to be body fat that is actually making your off season less productive. But if you're using that extra body weight to do stuff you've never ever done before in the gym every time you come in, which is really challenging, then you undoubtedly will really benefit from that. But you also need to make sure that you're managing your routine really well alongside it too. Like, I for sure would not have added 15 pounds on my stage weight if I would have only stayed 20 pounds within my last stage weight, and if I would have not pushed myself to do the stuff that I did in my off season. So I, yes, got pretty soft in my off season, but I definitely benefited from it. But you have to kind of know where that balance is between where somebody is really benefiting from being at a certain body composition, or where it is maybe becoming just unproductive. And that's another problem with people being scared to get uncomfortable, is they forget that yes, you are gaining body fat, but if you are also nailing your variables and training really hard in the gym, doing stuff that you've never done before, you are also gaining muscle with that body fat. You're not just gaining body fat. Like, yeah, like I say, if you're not putting in the effort in the gym, then you are literally just putting body weight on. But as long as you're doing everything you need to do here, and this is why the logbook sometimes is helpful, because you can be like, yes, I'm doing everything I need to. Like, you are going to gain muscle. And you will see that as well, honestly. Like, I did see that in my last off season. I could look beyond the body fat and see, yeah, I am putting on tissue, and you have to remind yourself of that. And if you need to put on like big amounts of muscle mass, you have to be able to embrace that. You just have to. I'm just seeing what the setup feels like. Don't worry. 14 kilos. Squeeze. No. God's sake. I was literally the same. Like, honestly, my first 3-4 years of training, I don't think I knew, well, I knew where my lat was, but like, really in my head, I didn't know where my lat was at all. I just moved through space. And I do think that that is, as much as I talk about, some things you don't need to worry about isolating or whatever, you do need to know how it feels to train different muscle groups. Like, if you are going on rows and pull downs or whatever, and you're literally feeling nothing, or you have no intent of what you're actually trying to train, like, just spend a little bit of time setting that up, because it doesn't take long. It just takes probably like a few weeks or a block of training where you just pull your ego back a little bit, you get that nailed, and then you build from there. And I did a lot of that after my first prep, where at the very start of that off season, I was like, right, let's stop being silly now. Let's make sure, like, I know what it feels like to train my glutes, know what it feels like to train my hamstrings, know what it feels like to train all these muscle groups, and then we can get stronger from there. Because otherwise you're in this constant battle of like, either constantly just like pulling back and trying to improve things, or putting in a lot of effort but not actually getting much reward from the work, and instead you're maybe just putting your joints, your tendon, your body through a lot of stress without actually getting the stimulus that you need. So yeah, send your training, and don't be scared of doing like hard, challenging stuff, but do make sure that you have at least got some of that like mind-muscle connection, because it is genuinely important to have an awareness of that.
It shows when you pose it.
Yeah, it does show in your posing as well. It's important for posing, and that's actually where like the two kind of go well together. Like, if you work on your posing, you'll probably find that, like, if you know where your lats are, you know how to play your lats, you can train your lats better. Similarly, if you train your lats well, it helps in your posing. So the two things do actually go really well hand in hand, and it's why, another reason why you should work on your posing, not just in prep, but also in off season, because it is really valuable. So on to rear delts then at the end of the session now. I used to do these at the start, but I'm not saying, oh, my rear delts are massive. No, they're not. But they're like, well, they're well developed. Like I don't need to prioritize doing them at the start. Makes more sense to me to prioritize my back work at the start, and then I can do my rear delts at the end. So in this session, I actually just have one rest pause. In my other session, I have 3 sets. But I just don't really need to do more than like one rest pause, keeps it nice and efficient. So that is like where little things in my physique at this stage, I can be like, not neglecting them, so I'm not neglecting them and I'm not dropping them off. You even still have to do a lot of work to even just maintain muscle mass. But I don't need to prioritize building massive rear delts. I can look at favoring a little bit more of that volume and priority to other things that need it. So rear delts at the end of the session, just one rest pause in here, and then we move on to the arm work.
Now they go keep making. No. Walk.
No. Huh. That's an example of how you treat a rest pause set. A rest pause set it's a set extension. You're extending the set. It's not a time for you to check your emails, scroll on Instagram. You're still in the set. You're just extending the set. So however much time you've got prescribed in between, like you need to stay in the set mentally, you need to stay in the set physically, like don't get out the machine, don't move. All I do is I stay in position, take some deep breaths, get myself prepared, still stay in the set, and then we go again, and we just extract another failure point.
We pay so boys.
Finishing off with biceps as usual for pull. My volume is actually a little bit less now for arm work, not because my arms are massive, just because I don't really need to do quite as much work as I was doing. Obviously I still need to grow my arms, but they're not a main priority in my physique. And realistically, I think when we were assessing where my volume was at with like the 3 sets, by the 3rd set I was maybe actually dropping off the quality of the work a little bit. So it's where we've actually brought down from 6 sets to 4 sets, but the 4 sets being just having a little bit more intended and a bit higher quality work. So that's why we've just reduced that a little bit. So doing dumbbell curls, and then we'll do cable curls and behind the body as well, just for 2 different variations there. Oh yeah, fucking hell. My abs, my abs are really, really sore from when I trained them in legs. Yeah, legs a few days ago. So I did a different movement. So I'm gonna leave that for today because they're not feeling good. I'll like literally have to train them at home tomorrow. Otherwise I'm just not gonna recover from that work. It's not gonna feel good. So we're just gonna do a lat stretch now, just to decompress the spine, and then we will wrap up the session there. All right then guys, gonna wrap up the video there. Thank you very, very much for watching along. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. As I said before, and I'll keep repeating, these videos are hopefully gonna get more fun for you to watch, especially before your own sessions, to hopefully give you a little bit more oomph. So if you have enjoyed the video, please do like the video. I believe it helps with the algorithm. You can comment below as well. Please do if you have any suggestions, any feedback. And of course, if you want to see more content, you want to stay up to date with it, definitely subscribe. But yeah, it's been a great session. I'm actually gonna do a little bit of a walk, do a bit of posing. I was gonna grab some bits for you guys today to show where I'm at, but I was showing Joe like my fake tan situation right now is like, it's pretty dire. It's pretty dire, I'll admit. So it's not very well. But I will show you guys where I'm at some point soon, because I'm kind of like, I like to sit in a middle ground really in my off season where I don't really fixate on my look too much. As long as body comp's good, rate of gains moving well, training's going well, that's all that really matters. I don't look at my physique that much to be honest, other than when I need to. So in that sense, I don't need to show you guys my physique all the time, in the way that I don't want you also thinking that you need to be fixating on your physique. But at the same time, it's good for you to just know, oh cool, like that's how things look. And to be honest, it'll probably be better for you to see how things are looking when I am actually a little bit heavier, because still at the moment I'm like 5-6 pounds up. I'm still relatively lean in the grand scheme of things. So maybe in like a few weeks, I'm heading to Boston next week for WNBF Worlds. I've got my client Hanny competing there in bikini, which is going to be really exciting. So I'll be there next week. Then when I'm back, I'll be a little bit heavier. We'll hopefully be even more settled into like proper off season. And I'll have a little bit more to show you guys, and I can, whip the posing suit and heels on and all that stuff that we don't love to do, but we do need to stay on top of. But as I say, I'm going to do some posing practice anyway, because it's important for me to stay on top of that. Otherwise, I'll stop rambling on, because I just ramble forever and ever. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one.